I'm very happy to introduce to you today therapist Shamila Kajavji on 5 tips for a great relationship with your adult child. Shamila is a marriage and family therapist licensed in Texas and Kansas. She has years of experience working with families, couples, and individuals trying to navigate their evolving relationships. She specializes in trauma-informed, culturally competent relational therapy. That's quite a mouthful.
Yes,
You
thank
can
you.
learn more about her at therapywithshamila.com. How can parents stay connected with an adult child without being intrusive or controlling?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to talk about this. I really highlight curiosity as one of the most important pieces, and this is true for any relationship ultimately, but I really feel like with with older parents and adult children, one of the things that we can really do is start to recognize, hey, my child is their own person. And so I want to learn who they are, and that willingness to understand, to really know their child as they've evolved over time. I mean, I think that really it creates such an aliveness in the relationship. It allows for that relationship to just continuously feel fresh and new, even for people who have known each other their whole lives.
I have a friend who runs an online support group for parents whose children are struggling with addiction or
Mhm.
mental illness. And she highly recommends non judgmental curiosity,
Yes.
the way to maintain connection without, sometimes curiosity can have an agenda to it,
It's true.
and to be curious without an agenda, but just with non judgmental curiosity maintains that emotional connection.
Mhm.
Did you derive some of your suggestions from what your parents either did well or struggled with when you entered adulthood?
I mean, I think we're all informed by our environments and our context that we grew up in. So absolutely, I think in reflecting back on my own history, I absolutely can say, here are the things that went really well in my relationships with my family and my parents. And here are the things that I think could have gone differently, right? They knew how to do what they knew how to do with the best of their ability. And with the education and the expertise that I now have, I'm able to also reflect on that with just a different lens altogether. So yeah, a little bit of both, I would say.
A little bit of both. I think part of becoming an adult is sorting through and deciding what we're going to keep and what we're going to do better if we.
Absolutely. If we can, absolutely. I think that that willingness to reflect at any age allows us to say, like, what are the things that were just deeply ingrained in me since I was young that I haven't even thought about that are just sort of operating in the background. And if I take the time to reflect on that, programming, I sometimes say, we can rewrite the code, if you will. We can actually decide if we're going to keep some of those things or, let some of those things go.
Absolutely. Your photo looks like you're too young for you to have adult children. Is that true?
That is true. I do not have any adult children of my own. I've just worked with quite a few families where that has been the dynamic. And so it wasn't something I sought out, but it was absolutely something that came to me and I've really enjoyed it.
Well, it's a gift to be able to help a family navigate the challenges of relationships that are in constantly in flux. Everyone's constantly changing, growing, and to navigate changes in the relationships is really a gift.
I appreciate you saying that. And I think it's very rewarding work to watch people go from disconnected to connected.
And what do you recommend for parents, particularly of adult children, to keep that connection even in on top of being curious?
Yeah, I really look for it kind of goes back to what you were saying about non-judgment, right? It's being able to recognize this is a separate person from me as the parent, if we're going to use that as an example. So for me to be able to look at this person as separate from me and say, you know what, you might share some of my ideas, my values, my beliefs, but you also have had experiences outside of our family that you grew up in. So what has informed you? How have you established your own belief system? If you don't share something that I believe in, help me understand where that's coming from. So again, it's that non-judgmental curiosity, and then it's also the willingness to actually ask the questions, to inquire, to manage my own discomfort if my child says something that is a little bit out of what I expect, right? Like maybe you do have a different set of values. That doesn't have to be threatening. It's an opportunity to learn more and to connect and say, how can I understand this better? How can I expand my image of you by
Yeah.
having these conversations?
My husband, I remember him saying that we think of ourselves as separate from our parents, but parents tend to think of their children as an extension of them.
Mhm.
And that can get both generations in trouble.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think any parent who's able to separate that out, they're going to find that they can actually enhance the relationship with their kiddo at any age, honestly. Because I think that we can, if we think of our children as extensions of ourselves, we end up in this sense that overly responsible, I get into the fix it mode when really all a person might want is just, can you listen? Can you hear me? Can you make space for my experiences separate from yours? But I think that if we get too fused together, we can get caught up in the, again, feeling threatened or feeling like I'm less than, or judgment, or even that sense of like you don't know how to take care of yourself. I'm that. I have to do that for you, and that really gets in the way of an adult child really developing their own sense of agency in the world, their own sense of self-efficacy. And so that's the last thing we would want.
I find that one of the most damaging things that parents of adult children that I know do is to offer advice when it hasn't been asked for. I think unwanted advice carries with it the somehow the overtone of I'm smarter than you, I know better than you should do it my way.
Yes.
I was coaching a family a few days ago where the mother of adult children was saying, I just want to save them from the pain that I went through. And, it's a admirable motive, but it still is so disrespectful to offer advice or pressure adult children to do things your way. If it's asked for, that's one thing, but when advice hasn't been requested, keep it to yourself.
Put it in
I,
the back pocket, right? It's there when it's ready, but if it's unsolicited, allow for your adult child to actually say, "Here's what I'm thinking of doing." And I think that that even offers the opportunity to explore, well, what are the options? How can we make the best decision? What's going to allow you to make the best decision? And how can I support you in that endeavor? So, yeah.
I was so impressed when my son told me that his adult daughter, my granddaughter, called him a few weeks ago to ask her his advice about the boy she's dating. And
Mhm.
I thought, wow, you've done something really well for your adult daughter to want your advice, to want your impression of the guy that she's getting serious about.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of admiration for how he and his wife raise their two children.
Mhm.
I want to thank you for all you do to help parents and adult children in that really big transition time. I don't think there's enough written about or talked about the transition from a child to an adult child.
Mhm.
I realized when my kids became adults how difficult it was for me to realize I no longer have control. The relationship has to really change. in order to maintain connection. And I I guess I'm fortunate that I recognize that because I hadn't read very much about it or heard very much about that big transition time.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So
think I'm sorry, go ahead.
please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with a lot of what you're saying, that I think it's something that a lot of people have had to figure out on, like, just by trial and error, right? Trial by fire sometimes, because I don't think there's enough written about that particular transition. We might talk about a person moving into young adulthood. We might talk about parenting children and teenagers, but there's that very specific age range of that relationship piece that I agree is not talked about enough. And so I'm glad to be able to do this work and support in the way that you're talking about.
And often the way that transition is handled dictates the relationship for the rest of their lives, together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, I think, as, therapy is becoming a little bit more commonplace when you have a lot of young adults, Gen Xers even going into therapy and talking about their experiences and learning about boundaries and learning about all the different ways that things could look in a parent-child dynamic.
Mhm.
It really behooves, I think, the older parents that we're talking about to say, you know what, I can do some of this work too. I can do some of this self-reflection too.
Yes, definitely.
Mm.
Well, I recommend to the viewers of this video interview to read Shamila's entire article on Authority Magazine. How could someone get in touch with you if they chose to?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, therapywithshamila.com, I have a contact button, so it's right there for you. My phone number is there as well. But as I'm also, you can find me on Instagram at shamila.lmft.
Would you repeat your website a little more slowly?
Sure, therapy with shamila.com.
Thank you so much. And thank you
Absolutely.
for the time that you granted to spend with me today. I appreciate it.
I thank you so much for this opportunity, Nancy. Thank you so much.